What if you're wrong? 3, 2, 1. This was very slow. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 49 of the Showerpodcast, the podcast where I'm in my shower and you do you. I'm your host, Chip, and we're getting very close to episode 50. Very excited also for that. I feel like it's the first next milestone. And I think the biggest one will be getting to 3 digits, to 100. But we are, let's say, closer than we expect. It's really incredible how they fly by. But at the same time, they give me a sense of continuity and each day feels special. And connecting a bit to this sensation, of feeling special and making every day special, I realized that besides, of course, the things that, I experience, that happen to me, the things that I observe on a daily basis, something that I also do a lot and fits perfectly into, this format. And I believe, again, it's one of the reasons why I thought that I could maintain something like this for a straight year, is that I absolutely love looking at generic videos about generic topics and think about them. Specifically, I imagine that there's at least somebody out there that also, from the friends that I know, that knows channels as Veritasium, for example, that's just pose questions or let's say expose a certain topic to you, of course, in a very beautiful, structured and professional way. And these are all topics that on a normal day-to-day basis, let's say nobody would ever think about them or even, let's say, know about them, because there are such diverse topics and they, let's say, touch on so many points that it's kind of impossible, to dig yourself into them. So given that, somebody else has done the dirty work for us and extracted the important information, I think that the next step that one can do is once you got that information, what about spreading it even further with the people that you have close by? And I do that on a normal day-to-day basis. Lots of my friends could guarantee to that. I'm always the one, let's say, sharing this kind of information and these kind of videos with them. But I think that I will start, leveraging this platform a bit more and do it, let's say, in a more structured way. Because again, it helps also me, to get over these ideas and let you know more about my thinking process. So, what was it today that I saw that made me, come up with this title? This video was about a question that was asked, or it is, let's say, within the questions that were presented to Google interviewers, so people that were trying to get into Google. And that was, how would you try to survive if you were shrink down to the size of a nickel and you were put into a blender? In 60 seconds, the blender will start going on, and you have to, let's say, survive that and actually leave. There were, of course, a lot of responses, and given that generally these questions were asked, for example, around campus or in general to people that were in the STEM field, they started coming up with mathematical reasons. You have to go down, you have to, let's say, you can duck and then wait, or use your shirt to create a certain force that will propel you out. And again, also asking a lot of questions, how are the walls? Is it dry? Is it not? Am I able to push it off? And the more, let's say, people were asked about it, and the more, let's say, nobody was really going to the direction that the people at Google were, let's say, looking for. That being that there is simply no right answer. And this is because most people ignore, let's say, the biggest, the first instinct that you want to go for. And that is, theoretically, if you were shrunk to that size, for how our muscle is built, within that size, besides, again, let's say ignoring the possibility that we as humans wouldn't survive if we were the size of a nickel, but you could technically have the force to jump out of it. So basically you need just to jump and you'd be out. And this, let's say, shows that sometimes it's really not about not having enough knowledge. It's not about, let's say, not being in the right mindset, but simply not thinking about the right thing and, let's say, ignoring your instincts. A point that I liked a lot about one of the interviewers that they were interviewing is that in the end, the criteria on which people are being marked, besides the technical questions that are, of course, either right or wrong, you cannot do anything about that. But even then, let's say that being strictly right is not necessarily the biggest criteria that we look forward. And it's more valuable to understand how you are, what questions are you asking to understand better the question itself. What's your reasoning? What's your communication? What are the things that you are keeping and not keeping into consideration? And it struck me because, we grow up, especially if you've been to any school, that you are graded specifically on how well and how accurate your response is. And there are very few times in which, let's say, the way that you are being valued is not by, the exact response that you give, but how you are able to arrive to that response. Of course, this is due to a process that it's very hard to scale. In order to be able to grade hundreds of people, you need something that it's quick and that it's either, again, right or wrong. You cannot expand. You do not have the possibility of having a conversation with somebody. But then, when you are in the real world and you have to do real things, as interviews, jobs, and real life situations, the schema is completely different. And the skills that you thought were useful, they are not so much anymore. And that, again, can be summarized in just one phrase. Don't be afraid to be wrong. And sometimes being wrong about your own, let's say, way of thinking is the response. You just being naive and going with the first response most of the times is enough, because the problem is not necessarily finding the best solution or being able to arrive at the best conclusion, but is, let's say, making the thing that you have in front of you not an urgent problem anymore, but something that can be scaled down and looked onto if there is time. And again, this is more of an episode to let you, let's say, breathe a bit and not always be stressed about being right, not always trying to be the one that is right, and at the same time, let's say, not pressuring others into being. Sometimes it is okay to be wrong, and most of the times, the things that you are trying to do and the things that you're trying to answer do not have a specific answer. And in general, in life, I do believe we should be chasing more the kind of activities that don't have a specific answer, because then you will be able to actually, let's say, use your whole entity into it and not be, let's say, restrained to just a specific kind of skill that you have that will bring you to either find the right or the wrong response. I think that's I think this was mostly what I wanted to tell you about. I will come back for sure with more stories, so really let's say get ready for that, because I do have a huge backlog of things that I'm looking into, so I will be happy to share them with you. Having said that, this was episode 49 of the Shower Podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and see you at the next one.